Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Lurkin from Mobalytics. I'm gonna try and go. I'm at tier 142 on Pit with, and this is a Blizzard build with Firebolt and Frozen Orb enchant. I'm gonna go over the gear that I have real quick that got me here. I think I can push way higher. I only played for 7 hours last night. Only 7 hours. Got pretty tired. So we're just gonna go over the gear. So I think what I'll do is I'll go over the gear and then I'll show you like what the possible affixes are. So for helmet, I do really like max life and cooldown reduction. And you're able to temper Frost Nova size and armor. That's great. I think you're gonna need around 17,000 armor because the enemies are level 199. They cap there for Pit. And according to the armor calc I found online, it's around 16,700 armor ish. So I'm way over cap and with the disobedience. But for helmet now, it's plagued with these elemental resists, but really you're looking at like armor, max life, and are sort of the things that you want to roll on that. As next we can look at our chest. So for my chest, I got freeze duration and total armor as uh, the tempered aspects, and then I really like the +5 ranks to Frost Nova. I got armor in there and I got intelligence. You see, I got some pretty good life, and I got 1600 int, so it's pretty nice. And now Snow Guards is so good right now. 30% less damage when you're in your blizzard for 3 seconds after. If we can look at chest, again, this is where you roll your defensives. I do really like the +5. Oh, I think it's because I hit a greater affix on this, but I do really like the ranks to Frost Nova, because as you'll see, I'll do a run. It's really important. But ideally, I'd probably actually want the +2 to defensive skills so that I could get all of my defensive skills up. And then max life, armor, even mana per second would be fine, but something like that. Let's look at gloves. My gloves are currently definitely crit chance, attack speed, and then because I'm over the armor cap, I'd probably want intelligence here. And then for temperings, I really like Frost Nova size, and like you can't go wrong with all damage. But if not all damage, just like damage to close is fine. And I want to be real with you. Gloves are miserable to roll right now. You have all these different ranks, then you have all the elemental resists, and then you have like the stuff that like you would actually want, like attack speed, int, crit, lucky hit, restore, stuff like that. So we'll go into pants next, and then on here I have Frozen Tundra, so the 50% increased ice spike radius. Next we have our pants, so we have Ever Living on here. Flat DR specs are really good right now because we can't roll damage reduction on our gear anymore. I have armor, int, max life, and then for my temperings, the Frost Nova size is huge right now, and I have total armor. So you're just able to get so much armor, and your Frost Nova is going to be huge. So pants are a little weird now. Like, again, plagued with so much resistance that we don't need. And then it's all basic skills right now. So pants are really... These are probably just exactly what you want. Int, max life, and armor. There's really nothing else better on them. Now let's look at boots. Boots are weird now. I have int. You can get a bunch of movement speed now. So I have mana per second, intelligence, and movement speed on these. And then I put freeze duration and movement speed as the masterwork. So now looking at these, you don't want any mastery skills on Blizzard, because Blizzard doesn't really scale like that. It just scales straight through the Glacial. My Glacial isn't even maxed. But really here, you'd probably be looking at something like max life, mana per second, armor, or intelligence. And so the biggest thing of the build is I can get 5 Tal Rasha stacks, which equals 75% more damage because of this lucky hit chance to deal 40% poison, as we can see on the dagger, and lucky hit chance to deal shadow on the focus. So daggers are really chill now. Like there's barely any affixes. So dagger, you're really gonna want int, attack speed, and then honestly, either like vuln damage, or I don't even know if you can roll vuln on. Doesn't look like you can even roll vuln on these, but so crit strike damage, or it's probably just scuffed. So yeah, int, attack speed, and then an additive there. And then I really like damage to close on Blizzard. It helps when you're nuking bosses, because you'll see how I handle the boss. It's a bit of a rotation. Stagger it and try and nuke it in that time. So yeah, damage to close, and then lucky hit poison or shadow, and you put the other one on the other. Next we have our focus. So focus, ideally, I'd probably have crit strike chance, cooldown reduction, and I don't know if I would slot intelligence, but we have the damage to close tempered affix and the shadow damage affix, so that we can get the 5 stacks of Tal Rasha. But this is a really good focus. You know, cooldown, crit strike chance is the 2 that you want, and then the other one that you could get is probably maybe attack speed, or yeah, that'd be good, or like resource cost reduction. So it's a little bit flexible. Uh, so for rings, you are really looking at critical strike chance, attack speed, and then um, just something to give you more damage, or maybe lucky hit chance to make enemies vulnerable. That'd be really good, actually. Resource cost reduction's always fine, but crit and attack speed are super goated on there. And then whatever you can get out of the resource tempering. Like I got resource gen, so you know, just take some form of damage that you can use on the first temper, and then take whatever you can get on the second one. And then as always, we have Tal Rasha, and once I get tibaults, this will go away. I will drop Disobedience, and I will slot Ever Living on there if my armor lets me. And I'll have tibaults, and I'll drop this ring and this Prodigy, because the Prodigy is carrying my mana right now. Like until you have unique rings, like Prodigy and an Umbral ring are really good, and your mana, especially with Umbral, your mana is so good, but it doesn't work on bosses. So when you have to pick just one generator on the rings, you take Prodigy. But I got a pretty good Tal Rasha here for this PTR, so that's nice. And then next we're gonna move on to Amulet. Oh yeah, and then on the focus it was conceded, so you know, Stormswell conceded, pretty standard stuff. And then we can look at our Amulet. Amulets are a mess to roll because of course they really need to take the resistances off the amulet and off the gloves. They need to go away. So you have all these passives. Ideally, I'd have ranks the Devouring Blaze or ranks the Icy Touch, like whichever one you can get. And then it's a little open-ended as to what you can get. Like intelligence percentage is pretty good now. People like movement speed, but I don't think that's it anymore. And then you can get attack speed now, and you can get crit strike chance. So mine is, I honestly really like my amulet. Cooldown reduction, crit strike chance, and resource cost reduction. I would probably trade out resource cost reduction for 3 ranks at DB if I could. And then I just tempered damage to distant and resource gen on here. So it is what it is. And then you have glacial on here. So one thing I did want to note is we can see the glacial right here. This goes to 3824 with both of these daggers. With dagger focus, it goes to 3824. However, it scales harder when you're running a staff. Like, let me grab a staff real quick. Alright, so I got a 920 staff, so let's just throw that on. So as you can see right here, 3824. Then when we put on the staff, it goes to 4543. And then as you can see on the staff itself, it goes to 6058. So I think the end goal with Blizzard is to work your gear up to run it with a staff with like int attack speed and then maybe crit strike damage, or like resource cost reduction is okay, but I feel like I'm losing a lot of damage because of that. But the ideal thing would be to have Glacial on the staff, Frozen Tundra on the gloves, and Stormswell on the amulet. But with this, you are gonna need the cooldown reduction from Tal Rasha, the cooldown reduction from Xfals, cooldown reduction on here, hopefully a greater affix and maybe masterworked, and then cooldown reduction on your amulet, hopefully greater, hopefully masterworked. But for now, I would say starting off, you want wand, you want dagger focus or wand focus, and it's able to bridge the gap in the damage loss because you're able to get the 2 extra stacks of Tal Rasha, where if you're just running a staff, you're only going to be able to roll poison or shadow, but it makes it a little bit easier to temper because now you have 2 out of the 6 options of the lucky hit chance to deal the damage. And these numbers are pretty high, 31,900 poison damage. And for reference, Xfals is like 49,000 damage now. So these are really high values. So these like lucky hit chance to deal these damages are so strong. And like at first I was looking to get cold damage, and then I tested it and I was getting the stacks at Tal Rasha. So we'll go into skill tree real quick. So we just take the 2 points in Firebolt. We just take the 2 points in Firebolt to progress. And we just take the bare minimum Frozen Orb. We're after the Vuln here. We have to take 1 point in Devastation just so that we can get to the next tree. I only take 1 point in Flame Shield. I max out Teleport. And then I take the Shimmering Teleport for the DR. I'm not bothering with this node because I'm not running Teleport and Chant and stuff. Max out Glass Cannon. And then we're taking Ice Armor. And the cool thing about the Wand Focus is your cooldowns are so good that you have really good uptime with Ice Armor because of Shimmering here. Every 50 mana, it's reduced by 2 seconds. I put a bunch of points in Frost Nova, and I was running the Shimmering at first when my mana was really bad because it was nice, but I ended up just going with the Vuln. And you'll see, like my Frost Nova, it's got a 9-second cooldown. It's reduced by 4 seconds after I kill enemies with it. It's super strong. We skip all of these. I'm really just after the protection and the mana shield for the DR and the barrier. We take the bare minimum Blizzard just to get the Mage's Blizzard, and then we do take just the 3 points in Dev Blaze. Hopefully this would be 6 or higher if I can get the passive on the Amulet. Skill tree is super simple. We max out all the Frost nodes here for the damage, cold damage, vulnerable, frost, chilled frozen enemies, and then we want Frigid Breeze for a chance to generate mana. This will help with bosses, and if you're worried more about mobbing, you can take Fiery Surge, but Fiery Surge won't work when it's just a boss. And then the king, the crux of this build is actually Deep Freeze. So it makes all enemies vulnerable after it ends, and it resets all your cooldowns. And then we are running Shatter, and I know the Shatter aspect got buffed, but that's something that you can look into running over, say, Conceited on a Wand Focus. But again, it does nothing for bosses, so it kind of hurts, because when you are pushing Pit on Sorcerer, mobbing is fine because we have so much crowd control with them. It's basically like the mobbing isn't that hard. What is hard is the boss. That's what's going to kill you because they essentially one-shot you. So it's all about skill rotations. And I have a few Paragon boards. I have like a tanky, this is the tanky board. I have a tanky board, I have a balanced board, and I have a max damage board. The D4 builds link will be posted below. But this is the tanky board because I was starting to get some DR issues. So I ended up going with a super tanky board. So I start with Reinforced for the 15% barrier DR. That helps my non-fizz and my all resist. Next we go into Elementalist for extra damage, and buffs our non-fizz and all resist, like I said before. Next, so normally you take a like destruction or control or something on here because this burning instinct board has so much dex. But I actually went with tactician. So I got this elite DR up here because I thought that was really important, and I went with tactician so that I could buff this burning damage node. It's nothing to scoff at. But I really wanted this DR burning board because it's so hard to get burning. It's so hard to get damage reduction now that I think like DR burning is going to be important. And the only way on a non-burning build, the only way on a build that isn't going for the burning instinct node, because there's more DR burning up here, if you ever see a blizzard or ball lightning build that like paths all the way up here for this DR burning, it is so far out of the way you basically lose an entire board trying to path up here just for some DR burning. And especially with frost builds, because of how expensive it is on Icefall to get this legendary node, like you can't get 7 boards if you go for all this DR burning up here. So the only way to get a ton is to use a stat booster on here, and Tactician is a really good one here because the dex is pathed very efficiently. And then next board I have a minimum in control, so I ended up taking control over Flame Feeder because it does help with the boss stagger. Like you do a lot of damage during the boss stagger, and you just do a ton of damage to all the crowd controlled enemies when you're mobbing. So, but you could put exploit here or flame feeder, but we get some DR chilled, and then we path through here, get some more DR chilled, non-fizz, some DR chilled. We grab the Icefall legendary node. Then we path through, and I take Stalagmite here for the 20% crit strike chance. Ideally, I have this mana nodes here. I don't think I need these. Ideally, I would flip this board. Like I would rotate it. I don't know. I don't know which orientation you guys can see me because I'm mirrored. So probably this way. And I'd path through here. I'd grab this I'd grab the Ent for the Stalagmite, and then I'd path out this way and grab this non-fizz just for some extra damage. And I'd path out there, and then we'd go into Frigid Fate. We got 130% non-fizz out of Enchanter here, and then we path up to Frigid Fate for 1.3x damage to vulnerable enemies. And then last but not least, we got a respectable 39 points in destruction for some crit damage. So yeah, let's run this. As we're loading in, I'll grab some water, and I haven't failed the pit yet. So let's see if I eat my words. Oh man, I'm tired. Let's see just how big that frost nova is. But as you can see, like my ice armor cooldown's really low. It's basically up permanently. But I have to remember to keep using my cooldowns because I'm relying on Prodigy right now. So I'm hitting the point in my push where I would really probably want to try to swap to a staff because I am going to get more damage out of it. But the issue is my Amulet, my cooldown rolls just aren't there. And I really think I would need tibaults and Xfals to make that happen. Because tibaults let me get another cooldown roll because Xfals has a cooldown on it. But Exploiters is putting in some work right now. Getting the extra crowd control duration. And as you can see, like, cooldowns are really good with Wand Focus, and I have 5 stacks of Tal Rasha. But just look how big that frost nova is. Like, it's so nice. Getting some respectable damage. I don't have Tibs, I don't have Xfals. I was running Xfals for a run, but without tibaults, I didn't have the mana regen, and it felt really bad. But I was getting some really high Xfal procs. I'm talking like 3, 4, 5 million. But like, these frost novas are just so big. And Deep Freeze is the real MVP right now. I really see. I know there's new Frozen Orb. Like, I'm gonna try Ball Lightning with Frozen Orb next. Because someone was kind enough to gift me. I think it was Nish. Was fine enough to gift me the Fractured Winterglass Amulet. So I've been doing nothing but pits. I haven't touched a single other piece of content. But Wand Focus is really good starting off, and like, people will probably get bored at this point. There's really not much reason to push further because you get enough materials. Like at this tier, you get so many. But cooldowns are just super good. Everything's always frozen, and then as you push higher, the enemies stay at level 199. But what's going to happen is they're going to get more health, and the end goal will be a staff. The end goal will be a staff because the damage is so much higher. Even though you're only going to get 4 stacks of Tal Rasha out of it, it's still worth it. I definitely highly recommend damage to close because it's such a high value. And with Blizzard, you really are getting on enemies and bodying them. And, wand or dagger doesn't really matter. They might have to update like the daggers, like the damage to close value, because it's only 16.7 inherent right now. Even if it went to 20 or 30, like it's really small in comparison to what we can get on the 10 rings now. So those inherent affixes on items are lagging behind. But it does get a little dicey sometimes, so you just have to be wary of your cooldowns and stuff. Like, my cooldowns aren't up right now, so I'm not going to go into that pack, but now we're good. Now I can teleport in. I think with a staff, I'm going to be able to nuke those enemies faster, but my cooldowns will feel worse. I made a mistake. I'm actually am probably gonna die here because I don't have my deep freeze to reset. So I'm actually gonna have to play this differently than normal. I'm actually gonna have to kite around a bit. Not my best performance. But now we have my deep freeze, so that's cool. So now I can actually sit here. Some stats gone. So these bosses are a little bit more tricky. Oh, I'm dead. I'm still jump. Alright, so we got another stagger. Unfortunately, I didn't have many blizzard stacks, and I'm losing track. I guess this is a good showcase of like what some of the extended fights look like. If I get a third stagger, it's crazy. Oh, that's tragic. How to scuff my video. Alright, so I'm gonna wait for my glacial, for my deep freeze cooldown. So I guess that's a good way to show the fight, like how it goes when you're like dueling it out, running around and stuff. But I'm gonna try and show you what it looks like when you're trying to nuke the boss. So you just sit here, ice armor, and a deep freeze here, resets everything, and now we got a good stagger. So this is what it actually should look like. See how much better this was? Like, you need to go into the boss having... oh my god, yeah. Yeah, you need to go into the boss having the deep freeze. I'm actually happy that the first run went like that, because you can see how there's an art and a strategy to tackling the bosses, because when you're able to sit there on top of the boss with all these damage to close rolls, you're able to nuke the shit out of the boss. And you have enough flame shields that you don't really care if he does a ton of damage or like one-shots you, because you can cycle your ice armors and flame shields and reset them with deep freeze, and hopefully within 12 seconds, like you have 12 seconds of blizzard stacked on the boss, you get the stagger, and then you just nuke them. So that was good. So yeah, that's how you do the bosses right there. That was a pretty clean boss run. And I think because of that, because as you saw, as the fight goes on, the boss starts getting more and more, like, he's got Lilith waves going on, he's got a shadow, so you really want to nuke that boss. And I think that is why Blizzard is still going to be the premier build for Sorcerer, is because of the ability to stack so much damage and nuke the bosses in the stagger. So, I hope you learned something. You know, another season of playing Blizzard, but I got a link right now. It's on D4 builds because Mobalytics isn't updated yet, but you know, we're gonna get updated pretty soon on Mobalytics within a week or so. So hope you guys are enjoying the PTR. And next is I'm gonna run Ball Lightning, I think, with Fractured Winterglass. So that'll be the next video. Peace, guys.